All right. Ani, bonsoir, good evening, and welcome to our regular meeting of council, of which tonight will be the public presentation for the budget. But before we start the meeting, I do have something I'd like to say. The municipality of French River is saddened to share the sudden passing of Mo Lalonde this past weekend. Mo was a valuable member of this municipality in the environmental services team, serving as landfill gate attendant for several years. Prior to joining the municipality, he dedicated many years of service as a police officer, continuing his commitment to public service even after retirement. Well known to residents and staff, Mo brought professionalism, reliability, and a steady presence to our landfill operation. He took great pride in his work and continued to serve this community. This loss is deeply felt by council, staff, and the many residents who had an opportunity to know him. On behalf of council, staff, and the municipality of French River extends its sincere condolences to Mo's family and loved ones during this difficult time. And with that, I'd like to have a moment of silence. Thank you. And as I normally do on the first meeting of the month, I turn it over to the Deputy Mayor. So Renee, to you.
It is moved and seconded that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Are there any disclosures of here being that we have no delegation tonight? So we'll go on to report and items for consideration. General government, no. We'll go on to 6.2.1. We have a presentation of the draft final 2026 budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mayor and Council. Thank you again for having us here this evening to present the results of our 2026 draft, or your 2026 draft budget. We're here proudly to present the results of that. And before I start, I just want to acknowledge and thank the administration staff, our new treasurer, Julie, who came in November and learned very quickly, and who will be presenting part of the presentation this evening for the budget. So as a result of the work between Mayor and Council, the staff, we're proud that we achieved our goals as was directed by Council, and we're here to present the results of what our 2025 expectations were and results, along with what 2026 brings. So in terms of the agenda this evening, we'll talk about the planning session that occurred on December 16th with Council. Julie will talk about the unaudited actuals of 2025 and our anticipating ending results. Then we'll go through the comparisons of 2025, 2026 by department, and then go through the budget summary, then ongoing capital projects, capital budget, reserves and deferred revenues, along with what the tax implications are, as people generally are more interested in is how does it impact them in terms of taxes. So this is a process, as you all know, that started in late fall, with the managers starting to get ready with the official process starting off in November, and with an original meeting with council for the planning and direction to be given to staff on December 16th. And brings us to this evening, February 4th, we went through the detailed budget presentations with council. And we're sitting here today presenting those results as a result of those meetings to the general public. On December 16th, the budget process started with council, at which time the first thing that we always ask is, does council want to keep the same levels of service? Unanimously, council was happy with the levels of service, did not want to decrease any of those levels of service. Talked about ongoing and proposed projects, established priorities as per our strategic plan, and both current and anticipated challenges coming forth. Some of the challenges that continue to be on the docket, waste management, environmental operations, having to do with landfill capacity, our environmental assessment that we're still diligently working on, the curbside recycling, and also the revised transfer site solution that council sent us back to the drawing table with. The Nouvelle sewer infrastructure projects, upgrades to the lift station, upgrades to the underground piping, I should say, and then repairs and upgrades to the lagoons. The dasher boards at the municipal arena. Human resources, there was benefit increases, inflation, and council back in November accepted a succession plan that was presented and adopted, which we're currently putting into place in 2026. General liability and insurance is always a challenge, although it wasn't as high as it has been in the past, it still had an impact on our budgets. And then the board levies having to do with public health, district services boards, MPAC, Sudbury's planning board, and libraries. Those total costs to our budget represent approximately 15.5% of our budget, just as a footnote, of which we don't have much control over. Increasing operating and capital costs, capital reserves, and more specifically vehicles, equipment, and buildings. Those reserves are starting to lower because the good news is we're taking those reserves and we're reinvesting in our capital infrastructure in buildings, vehicles, and the equipment necessary to provide the services at the levels we continue to provide. Good news is, well, 15% of our expenses traditionally are reinvested within the reserves to be able to continue that practice going forward in the future. We identified physician recruitment and walk-in clinic initiatives, and there's a line item in the budget in 2026 to try to address those and come up with solutions. And then the 2026 municipal elections. The OPP detachment, although it's still listed as a challenge, thanks to mayor's leadership and council's leadership, along with community support, we have received confirmation more than once that they are here to stay, and what the solutions are going to be going forward in the future will come at a later time. So that's great news for the community. Another challenge is, although personally, everybody enjoys interest rates coming down, it does have an impact on the municipality of approximately $15,000 to $20,000 because we're not gaining as much interest on our reserve funds that are sitting in our investments. And then there's rising services expectations, was not as much as a big ask this year, but the one ask that did come in was the volunteer firefighter recognition and dinner. So council agreed that the ongoing projects and everything in place, they were satisfied with and were happy to move forward with. And based on the information and projections that we presented to council on December 16th, council generally agreed that staff go back to the table and try to come back incorporating all of these increases and budgetary requirements, and to not increase our operational budget increase more than 3.5 to 4.5%. So going to the next pages, we're going to show you how we achieved our goal as staff and met council's challenge of trying to keep the general tax levy within those numbers. From here, I'll pass it on to our treasurer, Julie, to take you through the financial aspects of the budget.
All right, thank you, Mark. We keep going with the presentation in front of you. Before we jump into the details of the 2026 budget, let's take a look at our previous year, 2025. So the first column, you'll notice the actual numbers or the projected numbers. We still have to go through finalizing those, the financial statements, and have the auditors come in and take a look at the information. But sitting right now, we're looking at actual revenues of $12.2 million compared to $12.1 million that was budgeted back last year for 2025. And our total expenses will be approximately 11 million compared to 10.9 million budgeted in 2025. So we have a variance of 159,000 here from net operations, where our actual net will be at 1,060,514 compared to 1.2 million. So to explain a bit, the increase in revenues, we did have about 50,000 of supplementary taxes that we never budget for. So we're prepare a conservative budget, and that's would explain the increase. And there were some other grants that we received later in the year that was applied to 2025. For example, there was a pothole grant from the ministry to cover some of our costs for the roads. We also have seen some increases in our user fees, particularly building permits, so that is part of the increase of 91,000 of revenues. If we look over at the expenses, unfortunately, our winter control expense did go up this year, or in 2025, given the early winter. We did have to invest or repair our dozer that had an incident over the summer. So that is included in that 251,000 not overspent, but over budget. And we did incur more contractual expenses for the shop. We had an employee that was on a leave, so we had to replace that time with the contractors to come in and do the repairs and maintenance on our fleet. So those are the major explanations of the variance. If we keep going down the report, we do adjust for to be able to calculate the tax levy or to balance our budget. So we add back the amortization, the landfill post-closure costs, which are non-cash flow items, expenses. And then we will subtract what our capital addition. So we projected 3.5 million in capital in 2025. We only had spent approximately 2.5 million. There was some projects that got delayed. That is worth about $928,000 of those projects that got delayed in 2025 and deferred to 2026. So you'll see them again. We did incur some savings of about 420,000 on the projected capital budget that we did spend, but we did have some surprises over the year that we were able to use those savings and apply. For example, there was the Lakeview culvert that was changed over the summer, I believe. The rescue truck, the refurbishing of the rescue truck did go over, and our public works shelter that we presented to council over the year that was approved. So this is how we were able to recuperate or to overspend while still seeing some savings on other projects. And then we keep going to transfers to reserves. So like Mark had mentioned, we make sure that we replenish our reserve to be in a healthy financial situation. So those changes do, the variance is explained, sorry, with the variances that I've already talked about. So for example, we did receive some extra grants, so we were able to, no, that's transfer from reserve, sorry. So yeah, those variances, we did decrease in the revenue, the interest, as Mark said, so that money is less money going back into the reserve. The transfer from reserve did go down too, and that is explained with, we spent less money on capital, so we didn't take the money out of reserve. We did receive some grants at the end of the year that were unexpected, so we're able to keep the money in the reserve and use the grant monies to cover some of our expenses. So that explains the decrease in the transfer from reserve. So that is actually good news, is money being kept in there. So for our net, we were projecting, well, we presented a balanced budget of 0 for 2025. We'll probably end up with a small surplus between the 80 to 150,000, give or take, from here till the audit is concluded. Before I go on to 2026 budget, was there any questions in relating to the 2025's numbers? Okay, so if we keep going, we'll start off with the general government slide where we have a total budget. So for 2026, we have revenues budgeted at 521,000, a decrease of 70,000 compared to 2025 budget, and it is explained with some one-time funding, the grant funding in 2025 for asset management plan that's in place now. So the revenues will be reduced by that, and also the interest that we talked about. Our total expenses have increased by 98,000, so a total budget of 2.2 million compared to 2.1 in 2025, and that increase is being explained by the wage increase of approximately 48,000, our insurance increase of 30,000, election expenses that we're going to incur in 2026 that we don't in other years, and some repairs to the complex. Okay. Next slide, we look at our fire department. So the total 2026 revenues are estimated at 62,000, an increase of 26,000 from 2025. And it is for the, explained by the increase in user fees. So in 2025, we've noticed a slight increase over the last 3 years. So that's why we decided back in 2026 to increase that budget. Again, we like to be conservative, so it's not a full increase of what we've seen, but it's reflecting our actuals. And also we received, or we're getting a fire safety grant that is about 16,000 more than what it was last year. So that is good news for the fire department. As for expenses, we are going to increase, or we're proposing an increase of about 30,000 to bring up the total expenses at 598,000, almost 599. And that variance is explained by mostly of wage increases and just general increase in operating software and fire prevention and education. Okay. Next slide is our police department, or our police budget. So not too much, we don't have any latitude into in these amounts, especially in the expenses. So we've noticed a 97,000 increase from last year, and that is explained by the 11% increase that was taxed onto us by the provincial fees, OPP fees. You notice here the local board is also increasing the revenues and expenses. That's just because we took on the local board, being the manager, the banker of the local board. So we adjusted our budget to show total revenues that we'll be reclaiming from the other municipalities that are part of the local board and to show the total expense of that board. So the net effect is almost nothing at $181, which means is our portion, the municipality of French River's portion of the local board cost. Okay, so we did have to we will have to increase the OPP local services fees on the taxes to cover the expenses, the 11%. Any questions so far? We're good? All right, so next one is emergency measures, and we've kept it same as previous years, 2025. So a net impact of 61,000. We're bringing in some revenues from our COVID grants that we received in the past to be able to support and cover some of the extra costs in health and fuel and whatnot operating. I move on next to protection services, so specifically the SABs, the Sudbury East Building and Bylaw Services. Here too, we are anticipating a net increase of 36,000, which is explained by a one-time youth internship grant that we did receive back in 2025. So not being renewed in 2026 will reduce the revenues by 24,000. Our expected wage increases for the department will be the 20,000. So if we add those two up, that explains the variance of the 36,000. So net cost of 124,000 that we see here that is budgeted is again the municipality's share of bylaws and services, net share after the user fees that we collect. The Public Works budget is on the page 12 of our presentation. Excuse me. We see that the revenues have decreased by just over 200,000, and that was the use of OSIF funding, a grant that we had put aside for the Montigny capital project that will be completed by the end of the 2025, sorry. So that's why it's not being renewed in 2026. So that explains that decrease in revenues, and the expenses have increased to 2.9 million. So an increase of 148,000, mostly made up of, again, the wage increase and the restructure, the new position of Director of Operations. It's a new position, and it's being divided in the 3 departments that the director will supervise. So Public Works, Environment, and Transportation. We see a little bit of the increase from that position into those 3 departments. And then just normal aggregate and contracted services for the maintenance of roads and services have increased up to 35,000 to reflect what has been actually paid in the past. And our amortization of capital assets is expected to increase by 48,000. So the more that we invest in our capital, the more the amortization will have an impact to that. If we move on to environmental, so if we're looking here specifically at the landfill and the municipal drains, our expected revenue has decreased to 165,000, mostly because of the recycling program that is now being ran by the manufacturers that was effective back in April 2025. So an impact again on the variance between the 2 years. So the expenses has also decreased accordingly due to the recycling program. And of course, the wage increase will offset those decreases, so that we only see a decrease of 11,000, netting decrease of 11,000 here. And if we keep going to the sewers, so we're going to have a balanced budget on this department this year. because we were able to increase the local services that we charge, we'll have 30 new units that we'll be able to recoup. Thus increasing the revenues. And the water flushing of the storm sewers is only done every 3 to 5 years. So we were able to cut back on 2026 budget to have a balance sector in the sewers. So our fees will be able to support the expenses. Moving on to health and social services. So the increase here is mostly in our expenses, and those are uncontrollable costs. If you see down in the explanation, we see that the public health Sudbury district had a levy increase of 5.5%, costing us $9,000 extra. Our district service board for the ambulance was 6.2 increase, 3.7 increase for social and family services from the district service boards, thus explaining the increase of 84,000 in our expenditures. While we can't really always go recoup that money.
I just have a question. You have revenues, like where do we get revenues from health and social services? They usually are the ones sucking it out of us.
Those are, let me go see my detail because I'm not. Cemeteries?
Oh, cemeteries. Okay.
Yes, those are
Okay,
cemeteries
got it. Thank you.
and the helipad. Oops,
Oh, the helipad.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
20 and 5, yeah. Moving on to recreation and cultural services. Our revenues are pretty much the same at almost 490,000. Our expenditures have increased to 1.1 million, so an increase of 110,000, explained mostly by the wage increase and the allocation of the director of operations salary. The arena maintenance and repairs also have increased. When I looked into the hydro and contracting cleaning services, we were getting close to overspending. So we needed to increase the budget there to reflect the actual. The decreases in the Wally Lamodé Park that you see here is just a reclassification. We were reporting it as an operational. Those type of expenditures have been capital in the past, so I've just reclassified them as a capital expenditure. We are getting the revenues to offset those costs. So that explains the variance of 108,000 on the net operations. Moving on to planning and development. We have a budgeted expense of 109,900. We were able to decrease that expense line by cutting back on what was budgeted for economic development. That was the funding that ended back in 2024. Now we're just waiting for our other municipalities to join force and move on with as a consolidated group. Back in 2025, there was a partnership done with the French River FRCIC, the gallery, where we had applied for revenues as a grant for summer student. So that was the 18,000 grant that paid for the wages of 22,000. So that explains the changes here to planning and development. And finally, good news for the taxation and operating grant. We did receive an increase on our operating grant, the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, of $308,000. So that helped to cover a lot of the expenditures increases throughout our operating budget. So this amount here of $8,775,000 is revenues of taxation in the grant before the proposed tax increase. Okay, just a few charts here to look at our budgeting operating revenue in comparison to last year. So we did receive 400,000 more in revenues in 2026. So we're showing a budget of revenues of 12.2 million. And as you can see with the donut shape here, the allocations of our revenues remain pretty much the same. So we're getting about 50% of those revenues from our property tax levy. We're receiving about 28% grants from the province, 2% federal, and 14% from our users. So the allocations remains the same, although that we've increased. And the same thing with our operating expenditures. So in 2025, we had $10.9 million budgeted. We've increased it to 11.4 million. And the allocation again per department remains relatively stable, where 22% will go towards the general government, 29% towards public works, 12% environmental, recreation at 11%, and health remains 11% of our total operating expenditures. So here's a summary of the 2026 budget. Operating revenues of 12.1 million, 11.4 expenditures, so a net surplus from operations will be $776,104. To be able to balance or to show a balanced budget, we add back our amortization expense and the non-cash flow of the amortization of assets, retirement obligation, and the post-closure costs. We'll deduct our capital additions proposed for 2026 of 2.5 million. We'll see in the next few slides the detail of that amount of what it's composed of. We'll be transferring to reserves and to deferred revenues 1.5 million. So again, replenishing our reserves balance to be able to continue to invest in infrastructure in the future, and the deferred revenues. So when it's a project that can be ran over a couple of years, we defer it from one year to the other. We'll be bringing in from the reserves 1.6 million, and that too will be explained in a separate slide later on the details of what that means of the 1.6 million. Our principal portion of long-term debt will be 155,000 this year, so we expect a shortfall of 240,614. So that amount, 240,000, it represents 3.94% of our total property tax levy, and that's the increase that is needed to balance the budget this year. So in line with the direction of council to have an increase between the 3.5 and 4.5. Okay. So going into the capital budgets here, what's ongoing from 2025 is a list in front of you. So we have the Montéguérin box culvert that we just didn't have time with the early winter to finish it off with our contractors. Like Mark had mentioned, the sewer lift stations, the upgrades and to the lagoon and the hydro at the St. David panel and all that, again, deferred to future or to 2026. The Alban Community Center, we have some grant money specific to cover those costs, and we just didn't get a chance to get to it. So the grant and the project will be deferred to 2026. Same thing with the Wally-La-Mondaie Beach. New projects for 2026, we're proposing roads of $786,000. New arena dasher boards for $450,000. Those are the major projects for 2026. Then you see on your list, we have greater repairs. We want to purchase a half-ton truck for the Parks and Recreation. Fire department is in need of some equipment and equipment for their firefighters, some masks. We want to do upgrades to the fire hall building, so the floors and the grates need to be maintained or repaired. And some more investment into our equipment, the zero-turn lawnmower. We want to prepare a pad and a walkway at the Albin Cemetery, a new software for the landfill. The staff employees here need some new laptops, computers, and we will be revamping the heating system at the front of the arena. So those are a summary of what is new projected in 2026. If we keep going, we show our 5-year capital road project plan, sorry. So you have the details here of what was proposed for 2026, 27, 28 on to 2030. And if we keep going to page 26 of the presentation, this is where we'll see a summary of the 2026 capital budget, of what was planned, what the new and the ongoing, what the individual budget for each item. And then the last 2 columns will show you how we propose to fund these capital projects. So it's going to come from money from the reserves that were built, or that we have specific grants that are able to cover some of these expenditures. So for example, the masks for the firefighters that I was talking, we're expecting a cost of $35,000 for the 20 units, and we're going to apply the fire safety grant. It was going to be $32,000, and we just received a confirmation this week it will be $35,000. So already we were able to get the full money available to cover the cost. For the roads of $786,000, we're proposing to use some of the OSIF funds, the Ontario Community Infrastructure Funds, of $257,000, and the balance to be used by the reserves that we have. And the rehabilitation of the Montigny culvert, again, the OSIF funds that have been accumulated over the years will be used to cover that cost that's left to be done later this spring. And the second page of the capital budget shows our recreation and cultural services and their capital budget. The Wally Alamo Beach, the capital grants, those are the deferred parkland revenues that we have and available that match the donation that we receive. I mentioned before the ACC, the Albin Community Center, already had some funds. There was a grant from the provincial and federal government of $112,000, and we're going to apply what used to be called the gas tax of $185,000 towards the arena surface boards. And the balance of everything else will be taken from our reserve. So that explains the $1.5 million that will be taken from reserve for capital budgets. And moving on to the reserves. So we had a total opening balance of 3.8. That's an estimated balance. Again, the amount will be subject to the audit and to finalizing our 2025 numbers. We will be using, here I am showing $1,608,000 of use of reserve. So it's the 1.5 that we just seen plus 30,000 from the operating reserve. So the last line that on the table that we see here, and 75,000 will be used to cover some of the ECA work that we're doing at the landfill to change the ECA. Is that how I should say it? The EA. Still new with the acronyms. The EA. So that we're using some of that capital money to cover those costs. We're going to contribute back to the reserve the amount of amortization, and we contribute the interest that we earn. We put it back into the reserve for those funds. So that will be 110,000. So we expect an ending balance at December 31st, 2026 of about $3.8 million. The next slide will show the details of the operating reserve. So I just mentioned that we'll be taking 30,000 out of the operating. There will be 20,000 allocated to the election reserve and 10,000 for the planning and zoning. So the official plan study that will happen. That's explains the use of the reserves, and then the contribution is mostly made up of interest. But if you see on the third line, we have physician recruitment of 12,500. That's the monies that was mentioned earlier by Mark that are being put aside from our operations to be able to cover this project, the recruitment. So total operating reserves projected at the end of December of 2026 will be $562,165. And finally, the deferred revenues, so money that specific specific for certain projects and that we can defer from one year to another. So the deferred parkland revenues will be spending 53,000. That will be matching the donations that we received for the Wally Maudet Park. We will be using some of the COVID restart funds of 66,000, which is consistent in the past couple of years, to cover the health increases, the fuel increases that I mentioned a while ago. The multi-gate rehabilitation, so those funds are coming to an end at March 31st, 2026. So we will be spending them all. Sorry, not all of the funds are expired at March 2026. There's a portion, the NORDS grant will be expiring, and then everything else will be taken into revenues to be able to fund some of our capital projects. So that reserve should be, that deferred revenue will be at zero next year. And we have our SEBs, it's kind of a reserve that needs to be put aside specifically for the Sudbury's bylaw and building services. So the 19,000 here represents the amortization for all the vehicles for SEBs. So again, we're using the same practice. We'll reinvest or put aside the amortization money to be able to reinvest in our vehicles in future years. So we had, in 2025, we expect to deplete that reserve. So we're starting from fresh. So with an ending balance of 186,977 for total deferred revenues. Now, the impact on property taxes. Maybe we should start with those slides to make it more interesting. But I like to keep my audience up to the end. So property assessment, here's a snapshot of our property assessments. We see that the big impact will have, the tax increase, will have a biggest impact on our residential because it's made up of 70% of our total assessments. So what's the impact here? So here's a table with different scenarios. You have your 4 columns with different types of, assessment values. So the 170,000 is about the average assessment value for a non-waterfront residential. If we go waterfront, then we're looking at about an assessment of 290,000 on your home. And then we went on the higher side of the grid of 400 and 650,000 assessments, just to give us an idea of the impact. So the municipal levy for the first component, the first section, well, the first value of 170,000, the municipal levy will be $1,694.07. Plus the education levy, that hasn't changed. That's mandated by the province. It hasn't changed in numerous years, so it will remain at 260. We project about a 2350 increase in our OPP fees per resident, per tax roll. So it will come up to 265,000. So the resident who has a property valued at 170 can expect total taxes of $2,220 for 2026. So that represents an increase of $60 over 2025, or a 2.79% increase. So if I go to the last column here, on a property of valued at 650,000, the total projected municipal taxes for 2026 will be $7,737. So that's an increase of about $163 in comparison to 2025, or a tax increase of 2.16%. So you'll notice our percentages are decreasing over although that the value of the property has increased. That's due to the OPP levy that is a standard fee, doesn't change, is not based on your values of assessment values. So it decreases your percentage. Yes?
If I may, Madam Mayor, just for information, the OPP levy, is that amount charged to everyone? Vacant land, commercial, farmland, is that the one set fee that is given?
It is
everyone?
a set fee, but there is a discount for vacant lands.
There is a discount?
There is a discount, 1/3, I believe.
It's 1/3. If you recall, Councillor Bob, I think 3 years ago, we made an adjustment because vacant land was not paying any OPP service charges, and we had proposed to council to not charge the full amount, but come in at 1/3 of the cost, which was adopted back then.
Okay, thank you very much. And great job.
You're still awake. Good. Any other questions?
I just think that it's interesting for people to know that even though the operating budget is going up by 3.9%, that your actual tax increase is likely not going to be impacted. And that, I think it's very, it's good to see, what you presented, the difference, if you're valued at 290,000, that instead of 3.9%, it's 2.45. And if you're at 400,000, it's at 2.31. So people should be encouraged. There is a thingamajig, right, on our website, so that people can take their impact thingamajig
A
and put the
calculator,
thingamajig
yes.
in there, and that'll come up with your thing, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a calculator.
That's pretty.
On the website, there is a calculator that you can. input.
Calculator, that's what it is.
And the way I like to explain the difference between the 3.9% increase that we need, that's our pizza pie, is the 3.9% is what we need to absorb to have a full pizza. Our slices of pizza are what we pay as resident. So if my neighbor increases their value, my pie becomes smaller, his slice becomes bigger, and that's how the tax rate doesn't really reflect the total tax rate of the operating budget. It's our pizza's getting bigger, but our slices are still the same. You still get the same amount of pepperonis.
It's also reflective of the work that the building department is doing and the new construction and upgrades that are going on in our community, starting to reflect in our assessment as well.
What we're just about talking about is tax rate. I know it's a difficult time. And another increase, which can't be helped. But what part of our tax are delinquent?
That is a good question that I don't know by heart. Mark, no? Okay, I'd have to get back to you. In
arrears, yeah.
arrears, there's about 325 rolls that were delinquent in the past, the past 3 months.
Mhm.
As for dollar value, I can't remember. I'll have to get back to you.
Okay, I have another question. The arena, I don't know why I missed it before at our previous meeting, but the arena boards with our arena probably next year or later, also later this year, will have a lot less use. From what I understand. Now, is it really necessary to spend 450,000 on these boards? That's a large amount of money. I mean, it would cover the remainder of the new projects. Or we could add it to the roads. I mean, the residents would really benefit from that. You know, it's a lot of money for. And like I said, I don't really think they're needed, so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will respectively disagree with you, Councillor. Those boards are the original boards from the original construction back in the 1970s, 72, if I'm not mistaken. Rob? Right now, this has been a project that we've been pushing off for the last couple of years in trying to buy some time. At this point, they're all wood and they're starting to disintegrate. It's becoming an issue and it's high time that those boards be replaced.
Well, excuse me, I disagree with that. It's too much money. It's too much money.
That's the cost of operating facilities that people do make use of. It's recreation is a lost leader and is an attraction to attract new families to our community. And although there are rumors out there in terms of the usage of the arena, those have not been fully substantiated yet, and we're awaiting further information in the next couple of weeks.
Well, if the rumors come true, let's say, I still say that, well, I still don't agree with that because for the amount of use that's going to be done, you know, or let's say next year, later on this year. For example, the shots on the boards,
Roger.
the heavy shots will be gone.
Yep. Okay.
The heavy shots will be gone. It'll be kids playing. And I'm sure their shots aren't going to go through the boards. So.
I believe Jason, when Jason made his presentation, he did say that they were looking at applying for some grants to help out with some of the costs, but that the grant is not guaranteed, right? And that's why we are seeing, I believe, the full amount of that.
Technically, if you look at Julie's presentation, $182,000 is grant related to that project.
So it's not the full 400 and something dollars.
Well,
It's just-
you don't have the grant, right?
Yeah, there's $182,000 of grant
Grant.
funding that's put towards
Towards
that
that.
project.
Okay. But
Okay,
I'll let it go, but I still don't agree with it.
okay. Julie, if you want to continue on?
So on the last slide is just showing us a history of the taxation, the property taxes. So on a $250,000 assessed residence, we see that the property taxes, so just the municipal levy portion on the top of the line has increased about $375 in the last 6 years. And then we see the education rate remaining stable. So in perspective, I think it looks reasonable. We did increase about $54 from 2025. Not as big of increases that we've seen back in 2023, 2024. Okay. And, there was another slide. Where do your tax dollars go? So for, again, on, a property valued at 250,000, so they'll be paying 2,400. Out of that, 550 is going towards general government. It's 147 towards fire. $700 is, or $716 is going towards public works department. 293 towards our landfill. Recreation is $288 and health is $278. And then the other small amounts that we see here in our pie chart. So that explains what is being paid with your property taxes. And that concludes the budget presentation. If there's any comments?
I just, maybe a question, if I may, just about the education levy. So I know, Minister for, Doug Ford has announced that, you know, the OSAP is being cut, this is being cut, is that all that funding, I'm assuming, is part of this education levy that we pay back, like, because it goes to all the different school boards, so
That
the money only goes to school boards?
100% to the school boards, the 4 school boards that serve our area.
Okay. I think it's, I don't know if that's something down the road we can look at, like, you know, most retired people have the bigger houses and tend to pay a lot more in education fees when they no longer have kids, but yet they have the bigger, and I get they have the bigger houses, a bigger portion goes towards education, but at the same time, I don't think it's really fair to our, you know, older people that have worked their entire lives that are still paying these big amounts year after year.
We have no control over the education taxes. The lobbying wouldn't do anything. The school boards will tell us to mind our own business. It's like the school board's telling us, you're charging too much. So they control their own monies, whether you're public, separate, French, English, or whatever. But that's their baby. And their board decides what the increase will be.
And there's nothing any of the ministers could do, like,
Well, the
Like-
school boards would have to do the lobbying. That it's up
They
to
would.
them. And they're not counselors, but they're school board members,
Trustees.
trustees. They're the ones that have to go, when they go to their conferences and the minister is there to lobby the ministers.
for more funding
Yeah.
from them.
If we're going to do
so
any
that-
lobbying is to get us more money through grants.
Grants. Okay,
Okay?
thanks. Just, Counselor Bob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I agree with you. But on the same page, I am getting older. We are training in our schools, doctors, policemen, firemen, all the training that I'll call them kids are getting benefit the older people. That's my point of view.
Thanks. Never thought it's true. Yeah, Counselor Whip.
I take your point, because if you look at the OPP, we're able to charge each property the same value. Why can we not do that with education? Why can't education be, there's a pot that has to be paid, and why can't it be segmented equally across each property? Why does it have to be based on property value? So I think that we can get creative with some of these values if we look at it from different points of view.
We have no control whatsoever on the education tax. We can get as creative as we want. My suggestion is lobby your trustee. Because they are the ones that decide how much their school board requires. We are only the money collectors. And then every month or every three times a year, 4 times a year, we
Every
write them a
quarter.
check and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we have to
So-
do.
So it's a legislation. It's
Yeah.
one of those uncontrollables that basically we're the flow through. So we collect the funds on behalf of the education and then transfer the funds 4 times a year.
But explain to me, OPP knows what they require for their operating capital. Education knows what they require for their operating capital.
Ed-
It's divided equally across all properties. Why can't
So the
education be done the
difference
same
is
way?
the OPP, you entered into a servicing contract with the OPP to service your area. Education is governed by the province and regulated by the province directly. And they give us the rate that we are to charge the levy to the residents and then transfer the funds. So it's a provincially regulated system that we have no control over.
That's charged on our tax rolls, right? On a percentage of our taxes, so it doesn't matter. That's why we can't do the same as the policing, because it's like a 0.003 something. And based on the assessment of your property is what you pay.
And if I
So-
recall, that's been frozen at that rate since 2016 or 2017.
Yeah, quite a few years.
Somewhere around there.
Mhm. Okay, I didn't mean to open up I just trying to figure out also a way to, to save if there was anything that could be done. So,
No, it's good to have these discussions.
thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions for Julie or comments? No? Good job, Julie. Mark?
So, yeah, very good job. Thank you very much for that, Julie. And just maybe a tidbit in terms of data or percentages. So over the past 7 years, a home of $250,000 assessment increased about $375 on average yearly. $375 over 7 years, $53 on average yearly, which represents about $4 monthly or 14 cents a day. I think council over the past 7 years has been very diligent and responsible in maneuvering the operations of the municipality, and we thank you for that, and we thank you for your support. The other thing is just the next steps for the general public. The presentation that was brought forward this morning will be posted on our website for the general public. It'll be posted for the next couple of weeks, and we will be bringing back approvals for council to vote on the budget on March 18th to approve our fiscal position and our expenses for 2026 so that we can start maneuvering and starting to move forward on some of the work that needs to be done. Again, thank you very much. Thank you to staff for being here and participating in the process. And I leave it at that.
Thank you, Mark. We'll continue on with 6.3 Public Works Environmental Services is nil. 6.4 Recreation Community Services is nil. 6.5 Emergency and Protection Services. 6.5.1 we have a resolution to approve an overage for the refurbishment of the rescue truck. And I believe, can I speak to this?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Chair. So over the course of the construction of the Rescue 2 refurbishment, a major modification was needed to 2 cabinets to fully house the fill station and the cascade system. Reinforcement of the cabinet was to rebuild the interior cabinet. And there was other costs of the emergency lights, fill station, cascade cylinders were due to tariffs. Financial implication was materials, labor, reinforcement of the cabinet, fill station and cascade air cylinders and emergency light came up to $25,474.98. Funding for the additional cost will be through the 2025 surplus and restored to the vehicle reserve balance in 2026. Recommendation is that council approves the additional expense of $25,474.98 plus applicable taxes. Any questions?
No. We have a resolution now. I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Roger and Counselor Baugh.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded that council approves the additional expense for the refurbishment of the rescue truck of $25,474.98 plus applicable taxes as per the invoice received on February 23rd, 2026.
All those in favor? Okay. We'll continue on. 6.6, building and planning. There is none. Correspondence is nil. We have the items in the consent agenda. I need a resolution to adopt the other items in the agenda. Counselor Dave and Counselor Willie.
It is moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council approves the items of the consent agenda under section 8.1.
Those in favor? Okay, we'll continue. There's no items separated from the agenda. We have no notices of motion. We have announcements and inquiries. So I guess we can start with Counselor Dave.
I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
Counselor Dean,
Oh, I don't think I've got anything to add to the meeting. Thank you.
Mayor Pajot.
Tomorrow, UNIV has organized an International Women's Day with a whole bunch of activities that run from 10 to 3. And also on Saturday, the Sudbury East Chamber of Commerce is also organizing a full day of activities to celebrate International Women's Day. And so I wish every woman here in French River and on the planet a fantastic day.
Thank you very much. Counselor Willie.
I don't have anything to add. I just want to say thank you to Julie and staff for preparing the documents in such a way that was very, very comprehensive, very understandable. I know no one likes to see a tax increase, but it falls within the lines of inflation that we've seen over the last year. So I say for that, thank you very much.
Counselor Bob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also echo Willie's sentiments and Mark, I hope you pass along thank you to all your managers and staff and great job. The Seniors Housing Board, just a little report on it. We now stand at 25 units rented out, plus one that is approved for the future. And we have 3 applications out. When you add all that up, that we're darn close to the 30, so we're getting full to capacity. One, I would like you to keep the date open. We decided that May 28th, I believe that's a Thursday, will be our official grand opening. And there'll be more to come on that. Put them on, take them off. Again, I'm just going to mention April 18th is Earth Day. Saturday, the 18th, will be held at the Albin Community Center. I am pretty well full up with vendors. I might have one spot left. We have new vendors. We have repeat vendors. It'll be a very exciting day. The committee has been working hard to get all these in, and prizes have been ordered, and we still have for the kids the coloring contest, the exotic animals. So it's going to be a great day. Weather's going to be just as nice as today. That's a promise.
Weatherman.
Can take it. With this nice weather, last Sunday, it came to a close. Our curling season came to a close. And what I want to highlight, I want to thank our executive that, which are Michel Demers, Marcel Pitt, and Karen Finucane. I just want to highlight that they raised, as a fundraiser, $6,271.10 for La Maison McCullough Hospice throughout the year. So I think that's tremendous. I'm just going to throw another figure at you. In the last 4 years, either for La Maison Hospice or the Canadian Cancer Society, they have donated $20,254.35. So I think these people should, if you meet them, please say thank you. And that is it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Bach. Counselor Roger?
Through you, Madam Mayor and Deputy Mayor. Basically, Julie, Mark, thank you for this budget. Like, I believe it was Counselor Willie, easy to understand, easy to follow. And like I said, nobody likes taxes, but it can't be helped. Thank you very much.
Okay, I don't think I have anything to say except maybe thank you to all the women out there and hope you guys all have a great day and remember how important you are and the role you do play in today's society. I think we've come a long way over the years and I think we are recognized. I think the men, a lot of the men now value having us around more. Some, yes, some no. But I think a pat on her back. There's still some ways to go, but we've come a long ways. And again, thank you, Julie, for the presentation and staff for working. And I believe that's all I have. Keep the nice weather around. I believe it's supposed to be nice all week, so we'll enjoy it. And it's melting nice and slow, which has kind of been a good thing, right, Dean? Because we don't want it to melt too fast. So with that, we have a resolution to adopt the confirmation bylaw. So I need a mover. Counselor Dean and Counselor Roger. And yep.
Moved and seconded, be it resolved that bylaw 2026-16 being a bylaw to confirm the proceeding of the council of the municipality of French River at a meeting held March 4th, be read at first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All those in favor? Good, and we need a resolution to adjourn. Counselor Dave and Counselor Dean. Thank you and have a good night.